To lead a quality life, people occasionally require access to helpful services. For many of New Jersey's adults on the autism spectrum, that access is crucial. A lifelong and complex disability, autism is a developmental disorder that typically appears during the first 3 years of life, impacting development in the areas of behavior, social interaction, and communication skills. Autism spectrum disorders affect 1 in 150 children nationally and 1 in 94 in New Jersey. An emerging issue of national concern is the passage from adolescence into adulthood for individuals with autism who will continue to require services. One of the most challenging times for families affected by autism is when their children transition from federally mandated services through the public school to the uncertainty of adult services. In New Jersey, the Department of Education's responsibility for providing these services ends when the person is past school age. As children become young adults, families are faced with the challenge of creating a home-based plan or selecting a program or facility that can offer such services. This can be a particularly frustrating time.
Parents are left on their own to try to access services when in reality what should be available are choices.
Children with autism are given an entitlement to education, and that entitlement provides all services and supports they would need to become adult members of society, working, playing, living in the community.
Yet, when they turn 21, there are limited entitlements for services. Parents not only worry about how to pay for lifelong services, but how to find them, as such programs are not widely accessible.
It takes a lot of coordination to make sure that there's a seamless transition from school to the adult service world, but the programs aren't there.
They're being trained in school to work and live in the community, yet they're not getting resources to maintain those skills.
The New Jersey Center for Outreach and Services for the Autism Community, COSAC, was created in 1965 to provide information and advocacy services to families affected by autism and the professionals who work with them. Its Adult Resources Initiative solely concentrates on the needs of adults, which are lifelong.
And families need to be instructed on the specialized methods and research-based strategies that help adults with autism thrive.
Unfortunately, many adults with autism are not thriving. Once entitlements end, many face a fragmented and limited adult support system. This puts exceptional pressure on families.
When students leave the educational system, the responsibilities of parents, family, and people who are supporting people with autism spectrum disorders actually increase. And just because they become adults doesn't mean that there's not more to learn. I didn't stop learning when I was 21, and I don't expect that a person with autism is going to stop learning at 21.
3 decades ago, we were facing the same crisis with young toddlers and school-aged children. Now their children are older, and COSAC is aware of a tremendous gap between the existing services for adults with autism and the huge numbers of adults with autism who are in need of those services.
While New Jersey has a solid reputation for services for children with autism, those services, some experts say, are not adequately funded to keep pace with the increase in the adult population.
The system is indeed in crisis, and there's a huge deficit in adult programming. The finances need to build to continue to achieve the same quality of service. We shouldn't leave adults behind.
They are kind of falling off a precipice. They're staying at home, and with unstructured time, they're watching television, playing video games.
Adults with autism spectrum disorders clearly need effective community education, employment training, job and residential options in order to lead successful lives. These supports are vital.
This is a global issue. It's not unique to the United States. The numbers of families and individuals affected with autism have grown so dramatically, and the services aren't there. I think New Jersey has a great opportunity to be a leader. We can't just ignore this community.
It's very difficult for families because they are making a transition into a completely different world in which the services aren't necessarily readily available.
Service providers and programs that are out there for individuals with developmental disabilities really don't have the expertise to deal with the special issues that come along with autism.
In a perfect world, I'd like to see a work program that he could go to every day with a pretty normal work schedule, which would allow us to continue to both work outside of the home to gather assets that would be available for him once we both are deceased.
We're not equipped to handle 1 out of 150 births where children have autism or some variation of it. And we're less equipped to handle adults.
And the system tells you, sorry, but we really don't have enough money or supports to help you.
That reality worries Laura, whose teenage son Ross will soon transition into adulthood.
My greatest fear, which I worry about every single day, is what's going to happen after we die. Where will he be? Will he be living somewhere with people who understand autism, who understand his behaviors, who treat him with respect and caring? Or will he be mistreated?
Learning how to manage Stephen, given the set of challenges he faces, was and still is an ongoing set of life circumstances. The number of supports are very, very limited for parents.
And the worst thing is to have no option at all, and unfortunately that's what many of our children are faced with when they become adults.
Through COSAC's direction, we will maximize the potential of every adult with autism in the state of New Jersey.
In September 2007, New Jersey Governor John Corzine took another substantial step in his commitment to residents affected by autism spectrum disorders. He signed a package of bills sponsored by numerous legislators, most prominently Assembly Speaker Joseph Roberts, Jr. The legislation will establish a statewide autism registry, train teachers in autism awareness, require pediatricians to screen for autism symptoms, create a panel to study the needs of adults with autism, restructure a state council for autism medical research and treatment, and establish a pilot program to serve individuals with Asperger's syndrome. Along with this legislative pledge, Governor Corzine committed $5.35 million in his 2008 fiscal year budget specifically for autism services. For further information about autism spectrum disorders, contact COSAC.